Hey guys, it's Morina, just popping in before the first episode to apologize for the subpar sound quality. We were working with a less than ideal microphone setup. Hopefully the microphone that I have now will be able to produce significantly better sound quality in the future, so thank you for listening and thank you for hanging in there through this rocky start of ours, and enjoy the show. Thanks!
Let's hi and welcome in to Casting Shadows, the official, unofficial Shadowlands podcast. Hi, my name is Lady Morina O'Donovan.
And I'm Lord Elyas Swyft.
And we are your hosts for this little podcast of ours. Welcome to our inaugural episode.
Inaugural.
Inaugural, it is. It's the first one.
First is better.
Okay, so you say.
I say many things. Some of them are true.
Anyway, we are going to do a couple of segments each episode on a variety of topics. Today we're going to do a minute mythology and then a strange stratagems.
Woo.
And each episode will probably have about 2 segments unless one of them is really short. We will do bardic showcases and silly stories from history and all kinds of goodness. So if you have a suggestion or a piece that you would like featured, go ahead and send that our way. I will put an email in the description for you to send that to. And we will see about getting that on the show. So, do we want to just jump right in, or is there something else you want to say?
No, just jump straight into it.
Alright. Who wants to go first?
I think you have to go first.
I have to go first? Okay. So, I'm going to be doing a Minute Mythology segment, which is a segment where we basically take a story from mythology or folklore or a legend or something of that nature, and we tell it just sort of briefly and hopefully amusingly in a segment. So I am going to be telling the story of why Loki is the champion of workers' unions and workers' rights, also known as the birth of Sleipnir. So this story takes place early on in the days of Asgard, while the city was still being built. They didn't really have a defensive wall structure or anything at this point, and so they're hanging out one day, and this guy comes up, and he offers to build a wall that is so big and so strong that it will never be breached, and the city will be essentially impregnable. And he doesn't ask for much in payment. He just asks for the sun, the moon, and Freya's hand in marriage.
Doesn't everybody want Freya's hand in marriage always?
Always. Funny thing, she's already married. But that never seems to stop anybody. So the Norse gods all kind of circle up, and Freya goes, no, this is not my problem. Because that's her answer to everything. It's not my problem, you fix it. So their first question in this little powwow of theirs, or this little gathering, I should say, is not, can we bargain him down or haggle with him, but how do we screw this guy over? How do we get all the work and not have to pay? And so they talk it out, and they come back to him, and they say, alright, we like your offer, but you have to finish it in exactly 3 seasons, and you don't get any guys to help you, just you. And the guy thinks about it, and he says, okay, that makes sense, but can I have my horse? And the gods circle up again, and they're debating whether to let him have this horse. And Loki is like, you're already trying to screw him out of 9 months of work, just give him the horse. Just give him the horse. So the Norse gods finally agree that this is acceptable. And they go back and tell him, yes, you can have your horse. He goes, all right, that's fine. And he gets to work. And it becomes obvious relatively quickly that this horse named Svaldafari is actually better than any crew they could have given him. And the work progresses perfectly on time. And it's clear after a while that he's going to finish and they're going to have to pay their contract. So the gods circle up again and decide that this is Loki's fault for letting the worker have the horse.
That's completely reasonable.
And therefore, Loki's job to fix.
And they wonder why Loki wants to kill them.
I'm saying. So, Loki thinks for a minute and decides that the absolute best plan, because Loki's plans are always just out there. See, also that time that Mjolnir got stolen by a frost giant.
Which time? Didn't it get stolen a couple of times?
I'll do it on another Minute Mythology, but it involved Thor in a wedding dress.
Which we should recreate with thrusting.
In any case, Loki's plans are always out there, so he decides this time that what he's going to do is transform into a mare and go flirt with Svaldafari, this guy's horse. And Svaldafari goes wild and chases Loki up and down Asgard, just all over the place. And by the time Svaldafari gets back, the work has been disrupted, they're off track, they're not going to finish. And so the gods have now gotten all of this work for no money. So Loki gets all the credit, right? Well, no. Because in the meantime, while Loki is doing this, they discover that this guy is actually a frost giant, at which point they turn to Thor and was like, you wanna take care of that? And Thor goes, yep, I'm on it, and goes and kills the guy. So it didn't even matter. And after all that, when Loki's baby, Sleipnir, the 8-legged horse, is born, Odin went, that's cool, and took it for his own mount. And that's the story of Loki, champion of workers' rights. So yeah, that's kind of the Minute Mythology, is breaking down a story in an amusing way.
Try to get as many details as possible, but also not bore you to death.
It's true.
I think Norse mythology works really well for a lot of those. Some of the Greek myths will probably be featured.
I may or may not decide to tell Icarus. I definitely want to get to Phaeton and his horrible parenting. Well, his horrible parents, I should say. Why Apollo is a shitty parent, basically. Or why Apollo is a terrible parent, basically. So now it's time for your strange stratagem. What do you got for us today?
So I'm going to start off with one of the better known strange strategies, which comes from Julius Caesar putting down the Gallic Revolution. Rebellion, whatever you want to call it. And so basically, over a period of years, Julius Caesar was fighting this guy named Vercingetorix, who is this Gallic war leader who gathered all the tribes up and incited them to rebel against the Roman rule that Caesar had just previously established a couple of years earlier. While Caesar was off trying to invade England, he didn't succeed in England and then came back and found out that there was a rebellion and bitched at his generals who he had left in charge for failing to keep the peace. And it led to a series of battles, the first of which the Romans actually lost. leading to a slight size advantage to Vercingetorix's main army versus Caesar's main army. However, since the Roman troops were better equipped and better disciplined, despite the fact that Vercingetorix had more supplies as far as rations and everything, Vercingetorix pulled back to a hill fort in the area, and holed up inside waiting for his cousin to come with a reinforcing army that would overwhelm Caesar's army 3-1. Caesar was like, this is a problem. I don't have the troops to break into that fortification, and I know there's other armies roving around that will come and reinforce. And so he and his legion built I can't quite remember, but it's either 18-kilometer or 18-mile, I think it's 18-kilometer, wall around the hill fort. Then, after clearing all that land, cutting down all those trees, building this massive wall, they turned around and did it again, facing out. Basically creating a small ring city around the hill fort that housed Caesar's entire army, of several thousand troops. And they did this all in a matter of 3 months. Which, pretty impressive for a 2-meter tall wall with defensive platforms and a elevated pathway for patrols.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I wish Texas.
I wish any sort of construction had that. I mean, College Station would be so much better. But then, shortly after the walls are built, the reinforcing army arrives. And they see the hill fort, and they see the fort surrounding the hill fort, and they launch an attack with the Gallic cavalry, which is regarded as one of the best cavalries in the world at the time. Caesar sends out his own smaller Roman cavalry force constructed out of a bunch of people he recruited from across Gaul. These guys are outnumbered about 2-1. And the Gauls fight with the Romans and then retreat into field of fire for their archers, who then shoot a bunch of the cavalry, causing a bunch of ruckus. Both cavalries break apart, and then they do it all again, and the Roman cavalry wins, breaks through, kills the archers, and then goes back inside the hill fort. With everybody calling it there for the day. The following evening, the entire external Gallic army attacks a single point along the Roman walls, trying to break in and just overwhelm the Romans. Which is one of the first points where Mark Antony, for those of you who know Roman history, distinguished himself in the eyes of Caesar, as he was in charge of that section of wall. The Romans reinforce from various points and push back the army before the guys inside really have any idea what's going on. The next day, more shenanigans ensue, and the battle basically goes back and forth with the large army surrounding, spreading the Romans as far thin as possible, just completely enveloping the hill fort and attacking on all sides. Caesar, at this point, personally runs around and micromanages his troops like an RTS, taking tiny little blocks from legions, running them over to another section of the wall, and basically he just, for the entire day, circled this fortification, up until the point when Vercingetorix realized there was a massive battle going on outside. And he started a full-on assault on a single point along the wall, which is exactly what he should have done. It's exactly what you do once you spread the army thin, is you hit them really hard in one spot to break out.
I just love that Caesar got his steps that day.
Yeah. At which point Caesar ran around, gathered everybody he possibly could, and held back this army that originally outnumbered Caesar's army in the first place from breaking through while being attacked on both sides. But while he's doing that, the external army actually breaks through on the other side of the fort and starts pushing back the Roman defenders. And so right after pushing back the interior army, Caesar runs everybody back over, and he gives this weird order to his cavalry to break out in the opposite direction. And so as Caesar's running over, getting everybody to form a 6,000-man shield wall on either side of the fortifications to hold back the tide of Gauls, Caesar's cavalry breaks through the wall on the other side, just breaks their way down the line, breaking off the attacks along the, I think it was the southern side of the wall, as they circled around and they took up a position on a hill behind the main Gallic army, who panic. They're like, oh god, everybody else failed. We're the only ones left. And then the cavalry charges. And a large majority of the Gauls are either killed or captured in that battle, as they didn't realize that was basically the last chance Caesar had. But they're not done for the day. And so, after killing and capturing as many Gauls as possible, Caesar turns his attention back to Vercingetorix inside and just restarts the siege on him. And that's where the battle retired for the day, and Vercingetorix, having taken heavy losses the prior day and no longer having reinforcements anywhere in the area, surrenders the following morning. And so, if you ever know there's an enemy formation coming up on you, just build a small city around the enemy, and it'll work out fine, I guess.
And that was the story of Caesar and Vercingetorixism. No good, very bad day.
Yeah, series of 3 days, but yeah, that last one definitely is a no good, very bad, terrible day.
Terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. That was the title of that book.
That was. I had to memorize that book for school at one point.
Why did you have to memorize that book?
I had to memorize a piece of poetry, and that one counted.
You can't see my face right now, but I'm very confused.
It was like 3rd grade.
Okay, sure.
I'm sorry, I'm still young, so I remember when I was in elementary school.
I have vague memories. They're there. And I'm not that old. Anyway, so that was our inaugural
first
episode. Thank you for listening, and if you have any comments, questions, concerns, recipes for obscure Irish cuisine, drop them in the comments.
If you find the lost recipe for fire, let me know.
Quite specifically. Drop them in the comments or send them to the email that I am going to post in either the comments or the description on this video. And thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time. Bye!
Bye.
Hello, welcome to Inya's Inquiries. Have you ever thought about why bees shouldn't have teeth?